Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Join me as I make this BUBU dress with pleats at the midsection. Let's get started. I'll be using 3 yards of organza fabric and less than a quarter yard of damask. Backstage, I already split up my 3 yards of fabric in two, which gave me a 54 inches wide piece of fabric. I refolded this fabric in two again, which gave me 27 inches wide fabric, and I placed one on top of the other like you can see here. Then now I'm going to begin defining the neckline of the front piece. So the front width of the neckline is going to be 3 inches, while the neck depth is going to be 8 inches. However, I added 0.5 inch to that 8 inches to make it 8.5 because of seam allowance. From that point, I'm going to come out by 1 inch and mark it there, and I'm going to connect that to the 3 inches on the shoulder line. As for the back, you can see that I have already marked out 3 inches width for the neckline, but the neck depth is going to be 1.5 inch as opposed to 8.5 at the front line. And once I mark that, I'll connect that to the shoulder. I don't know if you can see the lines I'm making. This fabric is an organza fabric and it's sheer, which makes it difficult for lines to be visible. Now, if you're trying to replicate this style, I would suggest you use a stiff fabric. I made do with organza because that is what I had available, and it gave me quite a chore trying to work my way around this fabric. But if you make use of a stiffer fabric like damask or mikado or something that has weight, you will get a more rigid structure. So choose your fabric wisely. From this point, we're going to mark our shoulder span. My shoulder span divided by 2 is 7 inches. I'm just going to mark that there. And we're going to calculate our sleeve length. Now you want your sleeve to be quite long because you know that there will be pleats at the midsection of this dress, and that is somehow going to drag in the length of the sleeve inwards. So you want to make this very long, at least about 18 to 20 inches or more as you choose. So for me, my fabric ends at 18 inches, so that will be my sleeve length. That is from 7 inches, which is my shoulder span. I have 18 inches extra as my sleeve length. From the shoulder line to the hem of this dress is 41 inches. My fabric is not so long. If you're working with a fabric with a length of 60 inches, you can mark yours at anywhere you want your gown to stop. And right now we're going to cut out the front and back necklines. I would open up the front and back patterns, place the shoulders right sides facing each other, and sew the shoulders to each other. As you can see, I have stitched the shoulders together and the neckline is now more defined. Right now, I want to create the kimono collar. I'll take the measurement of my neckline, both the front and back necklines. And what I had after taking the tape around both necklines was 34 inches. Backstage, I already cut out a fabric on fold measuring 2.5 inches wide and 38 inches long. Now the measurement around both necklines was 34 inches, but I decided to add 2 inches on both sides just to give it some allowance, making 38 inches. So right now I would fold this fabric in two and notch it. Then I'm going to place it right at the middle of the back neckline. You can also notch down the back neckline as well, so you know the middle. Then I'm going to start aligning this fabric all around the neckline from back to front, just the way you see. After pinning it around, this is what I have. So I'll be taking this to the sewing machine to stitch around the part I pinned. As you can see, I didn't pin up to the 2 inches at the base of the neckline, so we're leaving that. I have stitched it and this is what I have. Right now, I'm going to fold the ends of this fabric inwards, just the way you see me do. Just push in the ends of the fabric inwards and just place one on top of the other. That is underneath the fabric now, and you can see that it is now arranged. I would give this a good press so everything stays neat and flat. So I'm going to flip this fabric over and I'm going to stitch down the little organza fabric we have at the base of this neckline to the excess fabric we have. After stitching it, this is what I have. Then I'll flip this fabric over and cut out the excess underneath. I would also be hemming the rough edges of the shoulders up to the hem. I would fold it twice and then take it to the sewing machine to stitch it down. I have finished hemming both sides and this is how it looks like. Backstage, I also folded in 1.5 inch allowance inwards from the shoulder all the way down on both sides with my pressing iron. I'm going to be using this for zipper allowance on one part of the dress and as sewing allowance on the other part. So the main part on how we're going to determine our pleats, let's do a little bit of calculation. My waist circumference is 28 inches, while my bust span or nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches. If I'm to divide my waist circumference into 2, it means that I'll be having 14 inches on the front and 14 inches at the back. Since the division of my waist circumference is 14, that means I would have 14 inches at the front. Now, if I minus 8 inches, which is my bust span from 14 inches, I'll be having 6 inches left of my front waistline. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So now this 6 inches, if I divide it into 2, it means I'm going to be having 3 inches on both sides of the waistline. That is 8 inches bust span at the middle and 3 inches on both sides of my waistline, and that will give me 14 inches on both sides. Now you remember that I already folded in 1.5 inches for seam and zipper allowance, so the total length of waistline we should be having after making our pleats at the front should be 17 inches. I have a piece of paper here, and first things first, I'm going to mark out a line which would represent my waistline. On this line, I am going to measure 8 inches, and this 8 inches represents my bust span. Now we're assuming the pleat is going to form a band-like effect, so we're going to determine how long the pleats are going to run from top to bottom. So I just went up by 1 inch at the top and I'm ruling a line there. Ensure you mark the midpoint of your pattern, and right now I'm going to go down from the waistline by 1.5 inch, and that is where the pleat is going to stop at, and I'll rule a horizontal line. Now I'm going to connect all the points together. This piece here is a representation of where our pleats will fit in. It shows the length and depth of our pleats, and I'll cut everything out. From this point, we're going to give a 1 inch marking in between each one at the length of this paper. We're also going to do that at the bottom as well, and we're going to connect both points together in straight lines. As it is, I'll be taking my vertical measurement and I'm marking my shoulder to waist at 16 inches because I want to determine my waistline where the pleat will be centered. I'll do this at several points on the front pattern of this fabric, and I'll rule a line to connect it. And if you've watched up to this part, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay updated when I post new tutorials. Now that I've done this, I'll place the pattern we cut out earlier underneath the fabric, making sure that the midpoint of that pattern is placed at the midsection of the fabric. As you can see, I just align everything to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be at, and I'm going to pin that down. From this point now, we're going to be measuring what we have left from the midsection of the front part of the fabric up to the sleeve line, and as you can see, what I have left is 23 inches. Since the pattern paper at the midsection already represents our bust span measurement of 8 inches, 6 inches added to that will make our front waist measurement come up to 14 inches. That means we're going to give 3 inches to both sides of the fabric. So that is the 3 inches there, which I will mark on both sides of the fabric. So I'm adding 0.25 inch for additional ease to make it 3.25 inches, and I'm going to mark that at the side of the waistline this way. From the borders of the nipple to nipple line to where we marked 3.5 inch at the side of the fabric is a total of 15 inches. So we're going to be dividing this into 4. okay, on both sides. We're going to be dividing 15 inches into 4. Remember, we splitted the paper at the middle into 8 equal parts. So right now, we're also going to be dividing this 15 inches into 4. 4 on both sides will make 8 pieces. So right now, if you divide 15 inches into 4, you are going to get 3.75 inches. And I'm just going to mark 3.75 inches up to the point where we measured 15 inches. As you can see, 3.5 inches into 4 pieces will give us 15 inches. At this point, we're going to be pleating the fabric. So I'll drag one part of the fabric we divided and pull it to the midsection of the paper. Sorry, the embroidery there is actually covering the midsection of the paper, but I actually know that that's the midsection. So while dragging it, you're going to be arranging the top there, okay? Don't make the mistake of just pulling it to the center without checking how it arranges at the shoulder area, okay? So while you're pulling this to the center, you are also adjusting the upper part, making sure that you're not dragging the shoulder of the back to the front. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but I think this is the video is quite explanatory. So just adjust everything the way you see me do to the front like this. And now after everything is arranged and aligned, you are going to pin it down. All right, you're going to pin this down. Now I'm not pinning on top of the paper, okay? I actually dragged the fabric up, so I don't pin on top of the paper. The paper is just serving as a guide, so don't pin on top of the paper, okay? So I just pinned the fabric now. I'm going to repeat the process again by dragging the second part we divided the waistline into up to the second part on the paper, at the middle, okay? The fabric is actually covering the lines, but I'm seeing I know where the lines are on the paper, so I drag it again. And I'm just making knife pleats, okay? I just drag it to the second part of the paper and arrange it at the top, okay? Keep on arranging it at the top, just so that you don't end up pinning everything afresh after you're done. I would pick up the third and fourth pieces and drag it to the third and fourth parts of the paper. So you just watch what I'm doing. I have finished pinning and I'll be giving this a good press, just on the pleats up to the shoulder. I'm just trying to define the pleats are already made. I have finished ironing one part of the pleat and I'm going to replicate this pleat on the other part of the fabric. After pinning the second part, I would iron the pleat as well. Backstage, I also made pleats and ironed them for the back section. After ironing the fabric, this is what I have. So if I measure the waist part of this pleat, I should get my waist. You can see after measuring it, I got my waistline or 14 inches. If you do it right, you should get your waistline too. I took this to the sewing machine. I'll take out the paper at the middle and I'll be sewing down the pleats. Ensure you sew at the edges of the pleats so your stitches aren't so visible. I have stitched the front and back pleats and this is what I have. So right now I'll be determining the sleeve opening of this dress. I'll start measuring from the shoulder to about 2 inches below the waist. Now since my waist length stops at 16 inches, I'm going to go down to 18 inches and that is where my sleeves opening will stop. And I would mark both front and back at that 18 inches. From the point I marked, I will be installing my zipper. I'm using a long invisible zipper, so from that point I marked, you can go down to any length where you want your zipper to stop. However, I just want my zipper to extend down to the hem of this dress, so I would go backstage and install the zipper. And this is the result. From this point now, I'll move to the other side of the dress and I'm going to sew in the allowance. I'll just close the sleeve opening up to the hem with the allowance of 1.5 inches we already kept inwards. And after that is done, I'll just hem the base of this dress, serge all the raw edges, and we're done with the dress. So if this video was helpful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.